Welcome to the Stuart Major Beam Engine rebuild. This is part 7 and I've just called this one alignment because it's all about the alignment of the centre column and the piston rod. At the moment everything is not right on this engine. The beam was over to one side and all the motion parts are over to the other side, and this horseshoe shaped piece is just not in the right position at all. So what I'm going to do is check it out and find out why and what's going wrong. I suppose this horseshoe shaped piece is really called a motion bracket, as it does support the Watt's parallel motion, and it's a very important part of a beam engine. As far as engines go, a beam engine is a very simple one. You have a beam, and that's pivoted in the middle like a seesaw. One end of it is connected to the piston rod and the other end is connected to the crankshaft. All very simple. As the beam rocks up and down, you have to have something that stops the beam, which is describing an arc, from bending the piston rod at each end of its travel. And that, of course, is Watt's parallel motion. In a previous episode, I described how I removed the parallel motion, well, most of it, there are one or two bits left. With the horseshoe part out of the way, I can use a set square to check the squareness of the top of the column, and yes, everything as I thought is fine here. Everything appears square, so there's no problem at all. At least I now know that the top of the column is square. This doesn't prove a lot, but at least it is square to the horseshoe part. So I'm just measuring the bearing supports, and yes, they're exactly the same length, nothing wrong here either. I showed in a previous episode that if I put a piece of shim to offset the horseshoe part, it appears to come back into true, but that's not the way to do it. That is definitely not the way I'm going to do it. I need to get to the root of the problem and find out why this engine is well machined, well made, and so badly assembled. Temporarily on the cylinder, I've removed the support part that supports the end of the horseshoe part, just in case this is moving it out of the way. So it's time now to temporarily reassemble once again, and there's a lot of this going to be going on. I tried the horseshoe part both ways up, and it's the same, it's so well made. It fits actually both ways round. By now you've probably noticed that the central column is quite loose. That's because I've slackened off the bolts. What I'm doing is just having a feel at it to see what happens if I move it. If I move it from side to side, you can see there is a big difference in the gaps between the pegs and the centre part that's fastened to the piston rod. Alas, moving the column from side to side would be a very easy fix, but it's not going to happen because when I measure from the datum surface that the column is mounted on up to the top of the horseshoe part like this, at both sides it is exactly the same. Then I had a sudden breakthrough. Not a mental breakdown, a breakthrough. I removed 2 of the bolts that hold down the column, leaving 2 just sticking up sufficiently to locate it. Then I refitted the guide bar that goes from the cylinder to the horseshoe part, and there was enough slack in the mounting bolts to allow me to rotate the column ever so slightly, a very, very, very tiny amount, and things suddenly came into alignment. So I think I may have the solution, or eureka, as Archimedes said in the bath. But I really will try not to get too excited for the moment about this. I repeated the process quite a few times to have a look where things were going, and each time the column just sat exactly where I wanted it to go. So as far as I can see, by slightly enlarging the holes at the rear of the base mounting, on the base itself, then I should find that the column can be moved into the correct position. Then everything else will follow suit. There is, however, quite a long way to go on this engine. There's a lot to do, not to mention the painting process. I'm waiting for a friend of mine making the wooden base for it, and then I have to clad the wooden base in bricks. It's going to be an interesting project all the way round. So thanks for watching, I hope you found it useful.